is I'm going to place embedded, and I'm going to pick my curved couch. Okay. And I'm going to hit return just to accept the changes. But what you would do on import is like change the scale, but I want to do a full lesson on that right now. Okay. So right now, my couch looks way too small for this room, right? It looks like one of those like pet beds or something, right? Too small. So let's make it the right size. There's a couple ways to do that. One of them is with your transform tool. And there's a couple different options. So when I go up into edit, transform is always going to be like your first step when you're importing stuff. You're always going to transform the size. And then if you need to change the perspective, we'll get there, okay? But that's basically step one. You drag it in and then you sort of get it to roughly the right scale for the room, okay? So what I will do, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to scale. And I just grab the corners and see how I'm like going all over. It's doing, like it's locking it to its dimensions and its aspect ratio. It's not like skewing it. It's not making it squished or too skinny or too tall, right? It's scaling it in relation to what I have pulled it to. And I think this room is too small for this couch. So this coffee table is throwing me off. So if you excuse me for 2 seconds, I'm going to just actually hide this. Let's do something fun. Okay, let's go in the room and let's take our marquee. This is just a little aside, by the way, okay? And I'm gonna just select, I'm gonna do my little marching ants around this like table and vase, okay? Let's hit selection. And let's see if I can, nope. I don't know what that is doing here. Quick selection tool. Should be able to delete this with one click. It doesn't want me to do it the easy way. My goodness. Okay, that's fine. We can do it this way. So I'm going to take my remove tool and I'm going to paint over everything that I want to be deleted, including its shadow, right? Because when you're rendering, you want the things to look real. I'm going to actually do the whole kind of little background area too. And when you're doing the remove tool, you want it to be a little bit bigger than what you actually want deleted. Let's see how it does. So again, this is an example of an AI tool, okay, that I will allow you to use if it's done correctly, okay? I still want you to use, like I still want you to learn the clone tool. I still want you to learn the remove tool because, or sorry, not the remove tool, the healing brush. But sometimes something like that is just the most efficient way to do something. So I believe in the value of that, okay? So I don't want to make you take, 3 hours to do something that should take 10 seconds. Okay, so back to bringing our couch in. Okay, we've got that little bench is gone now. Also know that it's gone forever, okay? That's why I always keep my copy. Okay, so back to my couch. Now I can play with the scale without having something in the room tripping out my brain of like, now it's too big. Okay, so let's grab a corner and let's scale it down and let's put it here. Okay, this is kind of close to the wall. I want you guys to think about some of the rules that we've talked about. You know, when you're, you guys have done space planning, right? Like you're in space planning right now, right? So you talk about like, you don't just shove everything up against every corner of the room, every wall, right? You create your zones. So when we're designing a room in a rendering, we're not just like shoving it as close to the wall as possible, right? Like let's give ourselves some breathing room. Life is good. Okay. This is actually a very good perspective for a room, right? The way that it's been shot. Let's just say, though, that it wasn't. I could go up to my edit and just like, sorry, I gotta be selected. I could go up to edit and just like the transform, I could then go in and change the perspective. So I'll show you what perspective does versus perspective warp. Okay, so let's just go to perspective. And I can do a couple things. I can flip it, right? Horizontally or vertically, right? Or if I grab these little handles in the middle, see how this tiny little arrow bone shows up? And I slide it. Now I'm changing the perspective of how this is shot. It's a little strange because it's like a curved couch, so your brain is going to play some tricks on you. If I drag the top corner, it's going to make it, right? It's as if I've shot it really low, right? If I make it wide, now it's as if I'm shooting it more top down. So this would be a great example of like, let's say I pulled this into a room rendering that has my perspective points visible and I could see the ceiling and I could see, you know, the floor lines. That would be my indicator of where this needs to go in the room and what the perspective of it needs to be for it to feel real. Okay. So that's your perspective transform. Okay. You can also make it like if you've got, you know, if you're doing cabinetry or whatever and you need it to be wider or closer or it's disappearing, right? You can play with it that way. Okay? So, great tool. Like I said, it's already a good perspective for our image. So I'm not too concerned. Now let me show you perspective warp. So anytime that you warp something, warp is like one step above transform. If transform was just dealing with the corners, warp is like dealing with all the meat inside the corners. Okay, so like all the stuff in the middle, you can then go in and really refine like portions of your layer, right? And play with the area or the perspective of certain areas. So this is really great when you're dealing with a composite, or like we can see right in this little demo, right? What they're doing, they're adding in like new fascia to the side of this building, and they're changing and they're warping the perspective to make it feel real. Okay, so I can then go in here. I'm going to draw my perspective warp over it, and anywhere that I click, let's just say here. Boom. Where'd it go? Oh no, I lost it. Here we go. Cool. So anywhere that I click, it's going to be like more refined. Okay? And you can add in points, right? So if I were to like put this over top, you could get really, what you call it? You could get like really nitty gritty with it. But for now, this feels good. Okay. The last one on the note of perspective, it's like perspective's little more flexible brother is the puppet warp. Okay. So this is where you would go in, and this is for like, it's used a lot on like people and recomposing like an arm or a leg, but it also does have applications in home design because, as silly as it sounds, sometimes you just want to change how the wrinkles appear on a curtain, right? Or like the fold in a pillow, or like, you know, someone chopped the pillow and you want to like adjust how that looks. Like, you can get really, really nitty gritty with this stuff. And you can go in and sort of, let's see if this will, I'll make my pins, and I can see it's like, I can melt it, I can twist it, right? It's weird on a couch. Like, this doesn't feel like the right application, but it's a fun thing to just show you, okay? So I just Apple Z'd that, Control Z'd it to get us back to normal. And let's get back to our couch. So it's driving me nuts that my room is so small. So I think I'm just going to expand it. I think I'm just going to make it a little bigger. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Boo, boo, boo. Again, this would be an example of AI. You could go in and you could painstakingly copy and paste the floor, right? Which, again, I feel like you should learn how to do it, play around with it, but we can also just generate it. What I don't want you to do is to generate something that doesn't exist, okay? So you can regenerate what's in there just by hitting go, right? And it should give me what's already here, just more of it. What I don't want you to do is to like expand it and be like, generate hardwood flooring, right? Because then you haven't learned the skill. You don't know, like, that's not an acceptable use of the AI, okay? So let me just be clear, okay? So here, this works for me. Let's see, it gives me options. Yeah, they're all fine. So let's go back to number 1. Boom. Okay, so to keep my file small, I'm going to combine these layers. Boom. Okay, so I've got my couch, and I'm going to bring it somewhere here. Let's bring in something else that might need to have its perspective changed. The one I could think of is our little tiger rug. And I think I have a working file of it open somewhere, don't I? I thought I did. That's okay. So let's open our rug. And let's make a copy. Again, let's remove the background. Perfect. Okay, good enough for rock and roll. Oh, I do have this. Sorry, I was just in the wrong file. I knew it. Okay, this is a better way to do it. Okay, so if I don't want to just hit place, let's see if it will allow me to drag it. It won't allow me to drag it. I can, if I have my Photoshop file open and I want to just bring it in, I can just click it and I can just drag it. Boom. And he's there. Okay. So again, let's play with the perspective on this guy because he is not correct. Let's go to transform and let's go perspective. Because I don't have any ceiling or walls to like reference, we're going to use the couch's perspective as my reference. Right? And again, it might like want to do its own thing, and that's okay. So you just get it to a point where you think it looks good, where it looks real and believable. That looks good to me. A good rule of thumb is always try and make sure that your horizontal lines are lined up with each other. Okay, so if I'm like this, it's going to feel off. Okay, this is where our compositional techniques come in, right? I hit enter, accept it, boom. Okay, and then if I want this to be under the couch slightly, which again, this is not good design, but you get the point, right? You just drag the layer beneath the other layer, and now our little tiger mat is under the couch. Okay, let's take 10. Why don't we come back at 10 after 8 and we will continue on with more applying of patterns and textiles and all that good stuff. Yeah, cool. See you at 10 after.